I don't know any other time when we would ever be like, well, you're that crazy and I'm this crazy. And it's just like, well, that like crazy is crazy. Like that's not good. Like we shouldn't be comparing schizophrenics to psychopaths. People who latch onto that level of conspiracy theories probably find some kind of comfort because they don't want to believe that things are just this fucked up and everyone's rational. Well, goddamn, Billy Bob, I guess I say we're gonna go.
Which is probably why they have a stronger immigration policy.
Yeah, so it's just like everyone wants to treat it like, oh, it's xenophobia. It sounds like this. You're an asshole. You hate these people. You son of a... Latches onto what he can see. Like, you know, same way you're in traffic and you're just like, you fucking...
What are you? I just don't see the point of like constantly trying to relive and like judge things that happened. Like, can we please talk about how problematic Thomas Jefferson was? And I'm like, do we even have to?
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's so fragmented because there's no base to pull from. Whereas opposed to like, well, it does in terms of uniformity. Like that's the reason why it's so fragmented. Where there's this colorism thing and there's this hair thing and
white people aren't even united.
I know, but like it's a little bit more united. Like no one looks at the Bank of America and go like, that's an Italian bank. Like everyone's like, oh, that's the Bank of America. Like, yeah, it was founded by.
Being submissive is like you're consciously making the effort to not be contentious with your husband.
Okay,
and letting him be more of the leader. And letting him be in that placeholder where you're. She didn't like that.
Yeah, she's like, placeholder. I'll show you your place.
Is that a patriarch?
The people who pressed on with that American creed. Yes, we can.
Yes, together we will make America better.
Zoom, zoom. Fuck. Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of Unintelligent Intellectuals. We're your hosts, Ebony and Ivory.
I'm Ebony.
I'm Ivory. Oh man, there's a lot of stuff to get into today. We're just gonna stumble in like we do for the first 20 minutes, and then we'll get a flow going and start talking some bullshit. So, yeah. But I'll start with I just had a conversation yesterday, funny enough, with well, I was talking to a couple of people.
An individual we know.
Talking to a person who happens to have two eyes in the face, and what were we talking about? It was something harmless. We were just talking about I was listening to this guy yesterday, and he was in Chicago, and he was talking about how they're gonna get like a foot of snow. Like they're expecting a foot of snow. I was like, holy shit. And they're like, all these flights are getting canceled. Like, I was like, oh, that's crazy. And it's like, it's nothing but rain over here. And they're just like, oh, yeah. And thank God, like, it's not like last time when 95 closed down and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, that was terrible. And then I was like, I started laughing at that governor who was on his way out. And he's just like, oh, yeah, he started blaming the people who were stuck in traffic. It's like, oh, it's their fault. They should have.
They were blaming the newly elected governor who hadn't even taken office yet.
Well, see, I had no idea about that.
Oh.
I didn't know about it. And like, it is crazy because that's what they said. They were like, oh no, it's Youngkin's fault. Or like, oh yeah, that's what Youngkin said. Youngkin, he's the reason why they didn't prep their roads. And I was like. Because I made a little slight joke. I was like, oh, yeah, like, I guess he was just a little bitter because he was on his way out. And they're like, no, it's the new guy. He's the one that did it. And I was like, nah, he wasn't sworn in at that point. Like, it was like 4 days away or something like that. And they're like, no, it was him. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the president.
Yeah.
Where it's like a couple weeks into January. They then take office.
Yeah, I don't remember what day it was, but I do remember that
it was still. He wasn't in charge of anything.
Yeah.
Like at all. Like he was just like thinking about like, oh, who are my cabinet members? Like,
yeah. He put the bid in, and they're just like, hey, you won the bid to the House, but they haven't combed through it. Like they haven't.
They're still doing inspections.
Yeah. So I'm just like, wow. But like I'm talking to him about it, and I'm almost positive, but it was like he was so sure that I had to look it up. I was like. what? And that's when I found out that like,
No.
oh yeah, Youngkin, the people are blaming Youngkin for this. People are blaming Youngkin. I was like, whoa.
Oh, how can you blame the governor?
That's impressive.
The governor doesn't handle things at that much of a local level.
I think it's just like in terms of like preparedness. Like, okay, like have you sent out or allocated the adequate amount of money in order to prepare for?
So
this
the people that you
storm?
vote and elect for your own local that don't do it, that they're not responsible.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it is. They're like
My
blaming
city
the local.
council
Oh, I see what you're
and
saying. Like on a more localized level. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Youngkin doesn't make sure the roads are plowed in Falls Church, Virginia.
Yeah. No, I don't think he does that. But he might be in
the
charge.
city council and
Yeah.
the mayor or whatever.
Yeah. Especially the local roads, but probably something big like the interstate, like 95. That probably is under the governor's jurisdiction. But I'm not honestly, I'm not sure about that. But I would assume so because somebody had asked.
It's like technically, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, someone had asked the whoever the guy who on his way out was, and then that's when he was like, "Oh, well, they."
McAuliffe? I think that's his name, Terry McAuliffe.
No, was it McAuliffe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's McAuliffe.
I'm
Or
terrible with
McAuliffe. It's McAuliffe.
Yeah.
We'll say it's McAuliffe.
Well, McDonald's, you know. Make sure we're targeted now. But yeah, McDonald's was clogging that artery, and they had asked him like, "Oh, how come you didn't adequately prepare the roads?" And and he could have been like, "Oh, we underestimated how severe it would have been," or But instead, he blamed the people. But yeah, but I thought it was just interesting that conversation. I was just like, "Oh, wow, like they're really not."
Because you don't like Youngkin.
Yeah. And I could understand not liking somebody, but it's just like it goes to what we've been talking about this whole time about like how like if you don't like them, then everything that ever goes wrong is that person's fault. And I'm like,
It's just like when people hate Trump and then they blame the economic collapse on him.
Yeah.
It's like that clearly was the pandemic.
Yeah.
We shut down businesses for like 6 months. You don't think that's gonna have economic like
repercussions? Hey, we're not working for 6 months, so
look at what he dragged us to. It's like okay, like
how come this hotel is laying off workers? Like not a lot of people were
disgusting.
traveling.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
We need to take care of our bartenders and our hostesses. And it's like, restaurants are closed.
Right. Like the resorts are like, no, we're not open. Like we canceled your plans. Here's your money back.
Not only are we not open, but people can't legally travel to us.
Yeah. Like we're not obligated. We're not allowed to operate.
We're not even allowed to receive people.
Yeah, we have to cancel the ones who've reserved. Even like but what. It's crazy. And then like they went on to and they were like, yeah, like it's crazy, and I was just like, oh, and I was like, okay, yeah, I was just like, oh, we're going along for this ride, but like I'm not gonna. I guess people,
This is stupid.
My folks are like,
do you know how many times we've been ill prepared for like a snowstorm? No one turns around and starts saying, Sebastian Smith really should have done a better job.
Yeah,
it's like I've never heard that before in my life. Somebody calling out the governor because of
I think it's just because of how crazy it was. Like it was kind of, I guess, fresh off of what happened the year before in Texas, and they're just like, oh, this is the first time that I know of that 95 got shut down or a portion of it. I was like, oh shit, I never heard of that. Like, oh, maybe like, oh, they could have said like, I mean, there might be some legitimate reasons too. Like logistically, after like COVID, like maybe they didn't have enough people who were ready to salt the roads. Maybe they had to lay off some people who work for the state or had contracts with the state. I don't know how that industry works, but like there might be
it's a combination of the two.
Yeah,
they have actual like city workers that do that, but then they also hire out.
Yeah, it's like,
because you'll see that sometimes where like it'll look like a regular truck.
Yeah, with
like the mount on it, and he just has a mount, and then the city hires him out, and then he works on that road.
Yeah. But it's like I could like maybe, I mean, and again this is like out of context, so like maybe it's like these guys, and you know, this is how the press is anyway, like they like to nag people for questions, you know, they try to get you to say something and try to get a little piece of meat. So maybe he was fed up and he was angry, you know, whatever, and he let that shit slip out. Like who knows, like maybe whatever, but anyway, like, so we're having this conversation. They're just like, yeah, like, oh, first that thing at 95, and then he's trying to erase history he's trying to burn books. And I was like, wow, it's not the policy that I read, but
the moment you hear that, you know it's bullshit.
yeah, I was like, that's a lot to unpack.
Especially when it's somebody who doesn't like a conservative who's saying he wants to burn books.
Yeah.
Isn't that your job? You're the one that wants to like burn Dr. Seuss.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's just either way. And it's funny because we got to the point where it's like I was trying to figure out like, okay, well, how am I gonna like have a conversation? 'Cause I like talking to different people from different spectrums and just like, where can I like initiate some kind of thought that might spur a sense of diversity or like
stupidity.
A different thought process, you know, and so they were talking about critical race theory, and then they talked about the vaccine. It's like, yeah, and then he's trying to get rid of the mandate, masking the kids. Like, well, that's how the virus is spreading.
No, it's not.
Yeah, like, okay. And then it's like, oh, it's ridiculous. And then they started talking about like extremists, and they said
they're
like,
extremists. You mean themselves?
Wow. They said like, well, like you look at extremists and like, you know, on the left side you got extremists like Antifa. They're like, oh yeah, like they're anti-fascist and they're gonna destroy or stop all the fascism by any means necessary. Yeah, that's pretty extreme. But you know, on the other side they believe in QAnon and lizard creatures and stuff like that. It's like, one side's crazier than the other. And they started laughing. I was just like, oh, God.
Yeah, but those people maintain jobs and the other people are heroin addicts.
I mean, like, like it's just, I don't know any other time when we would ever be like, well, you're that crazy and I'm this crazy. And it's just like, well, that, like, crazy is crazy. Like, that's not good. Like, we shouldn't be comparing schizophrenics to psychopaths. Like, it's not a... like any means necessary, like that's like including violence, like that's alarming.
That's someone that just never questions anything.
Yeah, and it's just like,
because most people, or not most, I shouldn't say most people because it's the exact opposite.
Nah.
Smart people are gonna be aware that like, oh, I have bias, so
yeah,
the people on my side that are extreme, I like know how they're extreme, so it doesn't bother me as much. And then the other people are because they're different than how I think, and they're extreme. It's so much of a different contrast that I'm going to see that as being dangerous.
Right. I could see that.
I might even like you might acknowledge that you know that, but like still be like, oh, that's definitely more dangerous. But in the back of your head, you're still like aware that. Like,
yeah, like I'm definitely guilty of that. I probably even said it on here, like where it's just like.
But you're aware of it. That person isn't aware of it.
Yeah. Like later on in the conversation, I kind of like noticed that they haven't really fleshed it out. Like this was something that they had like heard and they were regurgitating it. But like later on, like I was like, oh yeah, I could see this, and I was kind of like. Well, I'm not really for the vaccine or mandate or for the mask mandates because
I need to get more on screen.
Oh yeah,
ugly mug.
Oh yeah, come on, Ebony. Get it. But yeah, we're what was it? We were talking about.
You could make the same counter argument. It's like well, I don't mind conspiracy theorists that much. Yeah, they're crazy and they're out there, but that's always going to exist. Yeah. You know what terrifies me? People that want to physically tear down structures indiscriminately and burn them down.
I like the gentle tap. I like to be like, let me.
I'll take the person that thinks the world is flat over the person that throws a Molotov cocktail at a cop.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They started talking about the extremes, and it's like, oh, how crazy the lizard people was, how crazy Pizzagate was. And
you got people that are literally defending pedophilia now.
Yeah, the whole...
A professor just got fired because he said, I don't know, or I can't make a declaration of something being like an unmoral act with any type of sexual interaction with anyone, even as young as one.
Wow. What the fuck? Does he have kids?
His example was that I think in some culture, like in South America or something like that, the grandma will do some type of oral stimulation on a baby's penis to
Yeah,
like
I mean,
calm him down.
hey,
and
like,
because of that odd thing,
the
you can't make it.
Fan-fucking-tastic. 7 billion people out there. You found the one example that.
Well, there's probably a
like,
few, but it's such
I
an
know,
outdated.
but it's just goddamn it,
outdated, like, oh, thanks, abuela, you fucking moron.
Yeah, what the fuck? Like that's the whole. Okay, I don't want to. See, now my bias is coming out. Like, the postmodernist, like, no, there's nothing, there's no such thing as wrong.
But
like,
I'm saying
that's
that's an extreme, like, that's okay. So that person's side defends pedophilia now.
Yeah. So it's like, but like instead of fighting it on that side, I was just kind of like, all right, I'm not gonna talk about the Youngkin thing. I'm not gonna talk about the 95 thing. I'm not gonna talk about the mask mandate.
We can talk about the pedophile thing.
Yeah,
because at least on the conservative side, they're just trying to protect the image of their institution. Yeah. Whereas like that person, like that professor, that person's trying to fundamentally defend the existence of the mindset of pedophilia. Yeah. He's not trying to protect anybody. Like, yeah, but we don't want to make this institution look bad. So.
Yeah. you might. There might be another reason why he's still there. He's probably looking at that 1 year, to find something.
Well, no, it's because another person came out and got in trouble because they wanted to refer to pedophiles as minor attracted. So it's that whole progressive.
Yeah, that's
liberal,
right. I remember. With the whole, they were trying to distinguish.
We can't shame people anymore. Like it's one of those things.
Yeah. They're like, oh, there's a difference between babies and preteens and.
There's some things you just leave alone.
Yeah, they just don't.
Pedophilia being one of them.
Yeah. I feel bad for poking fun about it. Like episode 3. It's like, oh, people are serious about this shit.
Because that used
now,
to be
man.
a joke that people would make. It's like, oh, those liberals are going to defend pedophilia. And some people would hear that and go like, all right.
Yeah. Now it's like, all right.
This is real?
Oh.
Like, they want to remove, like, the sex registered and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I have an issue with that. But I decided to go the route of like, all right, let's talk about something that they haven't touched on. So like, kind of give a nuanced thought. So I was just like, oh well, I'm not in favor for the like vaccines, and I was kind of coming off because I was thinking about
clarify
about the
mandates.
Mandates, yeah.
Do not say you're against vaccines.
Sorry, holy shit. Yeah. I'm against the vaccine mandates. Yeah. Like, please, like...
You're against forced vaccination.
Yes. Because,
so let's at least attempt to make it sound like it's reasonable.
Yeah. No, because, I am happy that they created a vaccine. And I'm, like, people like my parents, like, I'm really happy that there's something there for them to take. Like, that's very necessary. And I have friends who, like, have other conditions and heart problems and are just of that age or have like diabetes or something like that.
There's issues that could arise.
Underlying medical conditions that might put them at a really harsh risk factor or have a really high risk factor if they were to contract COVID on top of all that. It's like, no, we don't need that complication. It's like, I get it. Like, personal, but so I talked about how I was against vaccine mandates. How like I wanted to go up. I was thinking about going up to New York to visit some family and go catch like a random.
Isn't
hockey
that getting
game.
better? Oh well, maybe not necessarily like that. Yeah.
Well, they have mandates at the garden. They have mandates like they said, oh, you have to be vaccinated, and I was like, okay, well, I'm vaccinated. I was like, well, I'm thinking about taking my kid, and they're like, well, if you're older than 5, you have to show your vaccine card. I was like, oh, I'm not comfortable vaccinating for kids, so I'm just like, no. So TV it is, guys. And I understand like people who vaccinate their kids because they're just like, and we touched on this before. It's like they think that this is gonna add a layer of protection. They trust the science and
nuts.
Yeah, I'm
they're out of their fucking minds.
Yeah, well, I'll say that I'm worried because they've protected the people that have created this vaccination and help them from all liability, and they're holding on to the data, and like I find that a little bit alarming. That like the really strong relationship between the corporate between that world and government. Like it's like those shouldn't be so hand in hand when it comes to stuff like this. Like I understand, like they provided this, cool. We're gonna give them incentive in order to provide this at a more reasonable rate or for free or more easily.
The death rates and hospitalization,
hospitalization.
There you go. Thank you. It doesn't equate.
Yeah.
For you to want to vaccinate your kids.
Like they'll keep
at least hectically.
Yeah, they keep quoting statistics, and from what I've seen, they're testing it overall. They'll say like, oh well, people who are vaccinated are like 12 times less likely to have severe symptoms or be hospitalized. But then
they're not talking about how to be non-vaccinated and get hospitalized. It's still...
Well, the thing is that they're skewing the data a lot because they're including everybody. So they're including people who've been...
Are you talking about...
Just in general.
To talk about children?
Oh, no. Just in general. Like, from the data that I've seen, they look at the people who are unvaccinated have gotten the virus or been hospitalized at these rates. But people who are vaccinated haven't been hospitalized. But they're not taking into account the fact that, during this time, there was no vaccine. And everyone was getting hospitalized.
Oh, you mean they're using cumulative numbers?
Yeah. So they're skewing the data greatly. Yeah. So they're not talking about... When they look at...
Even then, like, I remember when the vaccines were first coming out, and, somebody was talking about how, like, people who are unvaccinated are, like...
Are spreading it.
No, it was like 11 times more likely to die or something like that. And even if that's true, well, the percentage of people dying who are unvaccinated is like... Well, they were made some jokes like, yeah, well, then they'll all be dead, so we'll lose all the stupid people or something like that. I'm like, but 99.8% are surviving, so there goes your...
That's like... Well, maybe they have a lot of faith in humanity where they only think that 0.02% of the population is stupid. Like that's incredible. No. that's impressive. That's wow. I'm an optimist, but God,
it's probably the opposite. It's probably most people getting vaccinated are stupid.
Yeah. I mean, they're just put in a hard place. Like either like if you want to get it, it's like the conscription before Vietnam ended. It's just like, hey, hello, yeah, you're gonna join the military. Well, what are you doing over there? Yeah, you're joining the military. Oh no, but I don't want. Fuck you. Get over here. You join the military. Haha, you're a Marine now. Let's go. It's a little different than the volunteer force, for better or for worse. But mandate, you can't. You're eliminating the choice, so it's not like especially when it comes between employment and being like you continue if you want to continue your employment or not be vaccinated, that's coercion. So it's a little different than whatever. But that's what I said. I was just kind of I was telling them like, well, I'm against the vaccine mandates because I told them about the going up to Madison Square and it's like, I just don't feel comfortable with my kids, not because I don't trust the ability of the vaccine to protect against the virus, but because I don't like how much how much the companies are in league with
well, what did they respond
politics.
With?
They're just kind of like they're quietly like just like nodding. They're just like, yeah, okay, like they get it. And I told them like, and I'm sure that I'm not like the only person. I'm sure there's a lot more people who think this way as opposed to people who are like the extremist lizard people living thing.
Are you talking about on the side that's against?
Yeah, they get. Like, I'm sure there's more. I really.
No, yes, there's more people that are hesitant of it than there are people that think lizard people are living under. In the sewer system. Yeah,
and the way that everything that they said and like even the joking.
That's not even a real.
It's not a point. Yeah, like they were.
No, I'm saying that's not even a real conspiracy theory.
Oh, like people think all the time.
It's a real theory, but like it's not like Bigfoot. Like it's.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like a thing that like people will say. Like there's more people making jokes about the lizard theory than there are
actual lizard.
Like flat Earth, there are people that
it's concerning, but
that think the Earth is flat.
Yeah. But
and then like a tenth of that are like the amount of people that think like lizard people exist.
Yeah, I haven't broke down I was just like, this is...
Like, have you ever met somebody?
No. Yeah, no.
Outside of like Alex Jones ranting about it. I have not ever heard anybody talk about the lizard people.
That is true. But
and even he doesn't really talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, he's mentioned it in some rants, but like...
Yeah.
You look at like any recent podcast, he's not like, hey, you really got to worry about the lizard people. Like,
by the way, guys, check the sewer line. Yeah, but I noticed like when I said that they were kind of like they're like, oh, okay, like they were agreeing, but they weren't like they're starting to get like little.
Yeah, their taints were puckering.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, I don't want them to feel bad. So I changed like. Like, I'm not afraid of words or anything like that. I'm like, people say whatever they want to say or like...
And you change the subject?
Yeah. So I was talking about the flag burning and stuff like that. So I'm just like, yeah, like, the flag burning is like, I'm not... I don't think burning the flag is gonna help me particularly. But, if you have those beliefs... And I know there's some people who have those beliefs, and I'm sure... they're very nuanced beliefs. I'm sure there's some people who are just like, the South shall rise again and can't wait to get on the KKK outfits that they've been waiting and the Grand Wizard that they've been listening to like 24/7. But I'm sure that there's a lot of people who are just all about states' rights and who have relatives that served in the Civil War and they have some level of pride in that. So it's just I know it's more nuanced than that. Like, so it's like if the...
Are you talking about the Confederate flag?
Yeah, the Confederate flag. So it's just... So I was trying to open up the conversation.
Album covers with Lil Jon and Ludacris holding up Confederate flags.
Yeah.
And I bet, I'll guarantee you Ludacris doesn't have that same opinion now.
Yeah.
Confederate flag. I could see him saying like, the Confederate flag is a horrible image and this, that, and the other. It's like... Wasn't that horrible when you had it on your album?
Yeah. It was all about sounds from the... Because he was rapping
the
dirty sound.
I know before Lil Jon popped off, he's got one where he's like, he's holding it. Like...
Oh, shit. I didn't know about that. That's funny, man. But, it's just...
Because people realized that, for better or for worse, it was associated with having Southern pride.
Yeah, that's how I went to school with a lot of people. I went to school in the South.
I remember, like, we would have been in, like, our early 20s, I think. Mm-hmm. Or I would have been in my early 20s. How old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay, yeah, so we're the same age.
Okay.
Well, mainly, like, 2 years older.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would have... we would have been, like, in our early 20s, and this black guy won... I don't know if it was, like, a lawsuit, but... He got a lawyer and went against it and ended up winning, so that he could like pin up a Confederate flag in his dorm room. It's like this dark-skinned black guy from like Mississippi.
Yeah.
Because they were saying, "Oh, it's offensive," and he's like, "I'm black."
Yeah,
like it's good. Yeah. If it's offensive to me, I should be able to make the decision.
Yeah. It's crazy, yo. Like people are just angry on behalf of like that. That's like they were fighting this idea of Youngkin or this idea of the conservatives, and it was like all very extremist, very doomsday-ish. And it's funny because as they were talking about the extremists, they were talking about people who latch on to that level of conspiracy theories probably find some kind of comfort because they don't want to believe that things are just this fucked up and everyone's rational. And I was like, yeah. And I was kind of like you. but I was just, but yeah, and that's why like I kind of said when
the problem is like half of the conspiracy theories that everybody thought was absurd and non-existent are all true.
Yeah, that's what's...
Child sex trafficking cults.
Yeah.
If you said that 10 years ago, people would be like,
there's an island.
Okay, psycho.
Yeah. Like, all the politicians and rich people are like...
Yeah, there's billionaires and princes and they're just fucking kids. Yeah, and people
we know about it. Okay?
Oh, come on. Like, that would break. And
then somebody would say something.
And now you're just like, oh my God, it's everywhere.
So what's the latest on that Epstein case?
It's like every other day there's like some executive getting fired because he like fucked a child.
Chill. Okay. Oh fuck. But yeah, it's just it was interesting. I was thinking about there was a TED talk that I listened to a while ago. Yeah, no, but this one was
Congratulations.
no, it was pretty interesting. There's a psychologist from New York or NYC, the university up there. I'm saying NYC like it's different from New York, but but he was saying how people like we have to learn how to talk to each other from different political spectrums, and he's saying I think he teaches ethics or something like that, and he was talking about the morals that that different people have, and he's saying that when it comes to I think fairness and something else, that it's pretty much equal across the spectrum, like both when it comes to the moral values of of caring and fairness or equality. It's like it's pretty equal amongst the people who tend to be on the conservative side versus the liberal side. But then when it comes to whatchamacallit, like let's see, loyalty to a group or respect for authority or purity and sanctity, like that's how they rank the moral values, that conservatives tend to be a little bit higher than the liberals.
Yeah.
Where it's like for whatever reason, I think it's because the liberals or liberals in general, like they're afraid of or they're not big on loyalty to a group because that sounds like xenophobia to them. They're not big on respect for authority.
Conservatives it's about conserving things.
Yeah.
It's literally in the name.
Yeah, but he was talking about the based on whatever the psychometric breakdown that he had.
Like they're more likely to or something.
Yeah. So he's just like, we're more alike than we think. Like everyone cares about the same things and equality.
Way.
Yeah, it's just that the conservatives have other values, moral values that they consider at a higher level than liberals. They just kind of disregard all these other moral values for whatever reason. And so he broke it down like, we're like. It's not like as night and day or Civil War-ish as people make it out to be. It's just like and these are the little subtle nuances, and like based off of the people are raised or what they're exposed to and stuff like that. And it's like we just have to learn how to come together and come to grips with that. Like we both care about these same things, like fair but like for example, like when it comes to equality, or like conservatives care about equality. Pretty much just as much as liberals do, but they care about authority and being fair to their group also. So when they look at equality, it's like liberals are like, oh well, we just care about equality, period. So we just want to make everything equal or equality of opportunity. Whereas conservatives, because of these other values, they'll look at things from a different aspect, which is why we usually argue about, well, how sustainable is that economically? And that's what like the big pushback is. Like, oh, you don't care about this. It's like, no, we care. We just want to make sure that it's sustainable.
I don't care.
like I could make a sandwich for like every day of the week until I run out of bread. Then it's like I don't have any more food for anybody.
That's why we have borders.
Yeah. And so that's another.
Like America's great and all, but if you took in 50 million people, it's like. Then America goes to shit.
You have open borders, then countries cease to be countries. So, So I mean, not to say one side is right and the other side is wrong, but just to say like there's just little differences. And if we're aware, like you said, aware of our biases, then we could have like a nice nuanced conversation. But if you don't, then this moment that someone mentions anything nuanced, you just kind of
well, the problem is nobody's thinking about the consequence. Like, what are the potential bad consequences of these things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, if you brought in 50 million people from Central and South America, like, the country's worse off for it.
Yeah. So
that's just like a fact. Like,
yeah.
Now, if maybe
not because they're all sexist or rapists.
It's like maybe if like 50 million of them are all college educated and like.
I mean,
and like embrace American values and like America, and they all speak English. Like, yeah, it's gonna be great. I mean, they're gonna fit right in. But you know what? That's not the case.
But there's not gonna be
enough.
It's
not gonna happen.
But it's not gonna be enough jobs for everybody. So it's like, I mean, I was listening to this other thing about
Well, then welfare gets bigger. You're having more language differences. You're going to see more violent cultural changes, which then can just mean more violence.
Yeah.
Because then you're just going to piss off white people. And it's not about making white people happy. It's just like this country is what it is. Like if you just like violently change it into something else, it's gonna just end in violence. And poverty.
Yeah, we have these institutions. There's ways to change it, and there's arguments to be made. Like if you want to bring 50 million people over, it's like, all right, let's talk about it. Let's fan it out. It's like, okay, well, it's not sustainable for our economy to be able to do this, and all the welfare system is fundamentally broken. So
it could be 50 million people for like 100 years.
Yeah. So it's like, there's nuances to it. So it's like, there's ways to talk about it, but it's like, if we're just gonna be like, no, it's like, or just like take the extremists on one side or the other. It's just.
And then we're creating, what is it? I don't know words.
Like echo chambers or
catering to people coming to essentially illegals. Yeah. Because if you're legally coming to the country, you're most likely you either are going to have a grasp on English or you already know English.
Yeah.
Like where everything has to be in 2 languages.
Yeah.
You're saying like, oh, you can come to this country, not share in any of the culture, speak the language, or do anything. Welcome.
Yeah.
So then you have someone like, I mean, I actually know some Spanish, but like if I didn't know any Spanish, and then my community like changes, it's like, I'm born here, my parents were born here, and now I can't exist in my society.
Yeah. Damn. Well, I mean, I get that, but I think it's just because the immigrants that are coming from Central South America are just, I mean, first it's right there, so it's like, oh, well, that's gonna be just a bigger number if we're counting all the like legal and illegal. But if we're just talking about like,
I'm trying to remember. There's a thing that it was called. It's called I think it's called migration or. Oh fuck! It's like something displacement.
Oh no! Hold on. Don't do that. All right.
I think it's called like geographical displacement or something like that.
Okay.
So it's because you see a lot of people that come from like India.
Yeah.
They come here and they're computer engineers, doctors, nurses.
Yeah.
It's because it takes more for them to come from that where they're at to over here. Whereas like, I mean, if you want, you could just walk.
Yeah.
From like Colombia. Like, you could just be like that's a tough journey.
It's treacherous.
But you could just walk.
Yeah.
So
it's a little different.
Exactly. So like people from India, we're just getting a higher grade of people. So like it doesn't matter what culturally they're doing. They're immediately within one generation. Or like Nigeria.
Yeah.
Like Nigerians don't come to this country and then just never amount to anything. It's like they come to this country and like within 1 to 2 generations, they're like all college educated and.
I mean, that's the big push.
Speaking English and everything like that.
I mean, the standard in most places outside of the Americas is like you speak 3-4 languages. But
if you like go to like Italy and stuff like that, you're going to see like a lot of Africans and a lot of like Pakistanis and Indians, and they're the worst. They're like they're just like the scum that we would equate to like with like, oh, they're Mexicans, like
exactly,
because they're just poor, uneducated, they don't give a fuck, they're just trying to get as much money as they can, they're trying to scam everybody, they're you know, you're gonna have your alcoholics and your drug addicts. You know, someone from India doesn't come to this country, live in it, and then become like a heroin addict. Or their kids become drug addicts. They're like, no, it's like my kids are doctors.
Yeah, it's because they have a lot of institutions in place inside in their community, and that's really what distinguishes them from or like that's
which is the effort that it takes to go from like to another hemisphere. To relocate.
Yeah, because like I mean that's how in West Africa it's like it's a big thing to like, all right, you have to decide what you want to do like in secondary school, like the equivalent of middle school, and then like you have to bust your ass to get high marks just to get into the equivalent of the high school that you wanted. And then after that, if you do good enough, then it's like, oh man, you might get the opportunity to if you're economically okay, or if you're just cream of the crop academically, to go to Europe to study in university, or go to the
Well, that's the
States.
point. It's like you're trying to take advantage of the opportunities.
Yeah, there's a
Whereas,
whole system in place in order to get from here to there. And like you were saying, like, oh, well, it's like the ease of entry is like...
Well, I think it's Italy. They have like a thing where like
there's a lot
the
of
Africans will bum rush and use body weight to break down fences. And then people will just run across those bodies to then get to... There's like a documentary on it.
In Morocco, there's a spot...
Or maybe that's what it is. It might be that.
I
So,
mean,
like, obviously, like, maybe those people aren't the best people.
Yeah. So
because they're literally out of desperation just leaving an area.
Right. So, like, yeah, if you take cream of the crop versus the most desperate people. I mean, we could say the same thing about Americans. It's like, it's not like we're trying to be, like, mean against those dirty Mexicans.
I'll guarantee you there are white people that went into Canada and are just leeching off of their government.
Yeah. Free healthcare. Well, goddamn, Billy Bob, I guess I say we gonna go.
Which is probably why they have a stronger immigration policy.
Yeah, so it's just like everyone wants to treat it like, oh, it's xenophobia. It sounds like this. You're an asshole. You hate these people. You son of a bitch. It's like, no. It's not that. It's just that I prefer the system that we have in place because it takes a fair amount of cream of the crop. But it's not all just, selective cream of the crop. They have a fair amount of, like, work visas. So some people who just come in and they just want to be, like, or just, like, regular, like, work with their hands type of thing. Like, there's an avenue for them to come in. Mm-hmm. There's only so many slots, but there's an avenue. People who cream of the crop, there's an avenue. And then there's people who are seeking refuge from war-torn areas or drug cartels and stuff like that. There's also an avenue. What people are against is the illegal part of the immigration. But, just talking about things like that, they're just like, they assume, well, since illegal immigration is mostly from Mexico, that means you hate Mexicans. Like, no, that's not what it is. There's this...
there's also, it's like the majority of people who are poor in this country are black and white.
Yeah.
So shouldn't we be trying to fix the people
system
that are already poor in our own country before we go and look to help people that are... Because it'd be one thing if, like, black poverty was, like, at, like, 20%. And it's like, hey, you know what, bring all these people in, we've got a lot of wealth. It's like black people can't get shit. So it's like, hey, how are we going to fix that? Well, Colombians.
Yeah, and I see that happening because in the paint industry, it's not a lot of money there, but it's like, there's always work, but there's a lot of, like, Hispanics taking over the industry, and this guy would come over, he's like, oh, these goddamn Hispanics taking over these fucking jobs, And I was like, I'm Dominican. but like, I get it. I understand. It's just like, he's just angry because it's just fucking, he's just like, oh, shit. But it's... All right. I think that's the off one. But it's just people, like, people don't know how to articulate that well. They're just like, he's just like, oh, these fucking Hispanics. So the people are like, oh, you're just mad they don't speak English. Oh, you son of a bitch. You're racist against Spanish.
He just wants to go to a 7-Eleven without getting mobbed.
Yeah. It's different. Like, to articulate it the right way, he's concerned that people are, like, he's not making very much money. He's been struggling his whole life. His father was a painter. He's
subconsciously also reflecting agitation based off of what might happen 50 years from now.
Yes, because he's seeing what's happening in the now. He's like, wow, like, I couldn't get 5 jobs to do this in 3 weeks. Now I'm lucky to get 3 jobs. Like, shit, this is fucked up. So it's like, so instead of articulating it that way, because again, not everybody's cream of the crop and being able to process their emotions and understand the landscape that way. He just, like, latches onto what he can see, like, same way you're in traffic and you're just like, you fucking
What are you?
Like, that's, you gotta figure something out, and then you can target it.
You're like, goddamn women.
You goddamn, you little slit, like
fucking senile old white guy.
I bet it's an old person driving that. Oh, it's a teenager. Oh, you drivers, like, You know, like, it's not like he doesn't hate you drivers or hate old people. It's like, no, he hates that this person is stopped the way.
And then he's taking their demographic and shitting on them.
Yeah. So that's just not. I'm positive that there's people who just hate people for the way that they look and the way that they are. But I guarantee, I'm at least a certain amount that have that kind of reaction, and I'm pretty sure most people can relate to that. And they're just like, yeah, I've done that a little bit. Like, even if it's like, maybe not a lot. Like, yeah, I said that shit in my head. And I think if we're able to have those conversations, you can flesh out who the fuck is who.
I think a comedian said something about that. I think he had a joke where he's like, everybody's a little racist. And then like, you know, the crowd gives like a noise or whatever the fuck. And he's like, it's like, what? You think that, you know, you're driving by and some old Asian person like cuts you off in traffic and you don't say something simple like, of course.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like that like vulgar.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's still racist.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, man. So that's 100% true, man. So that's something we should be we can identify, like, if we're willing to have those conversations, if that wasn't like this big ban on like stopping conversations from happening, that dialogue can happen, and through that dialogue you can realize the people who are just like, yeah, I'm just upset and I'm just mad or whatever, versus the people who are just like,
so I think the result is that we should, heterosexual men should start having sex with transgender women.
That's what I've been saying this whole time.
It's just a beautiful girl with a gift.
That's what you got out of it.
With a nice present that needs to be opened.
You have one too? Believe all women. Oh, but that's why it's crazy the attempt to shut down speech. Like, that kind of conversation is already taboo. And then like the little bit of free nuanced conversation we can have now is like people are railing, like those institutionalized or televised media, like railing against shutting it down, like what happened with Joe Rogan with
but that's not gonna work because they're a joke.
Yeah no, it's not gonna work, but it's just it's great. I'm hoping that, especially since the dynamic of the audiences are so different, that most people look at that like, oh, that shit's crazy. Like, no, we need to have conversations concerning these things that are considered taboo, as opposed to shutting down the conversation which we deem predetermined are accurate versus not.
I mean, the guy literally had a trans woman on like a month and a half ago.
There you go.
And didn't like berate her. Like,
yeah.
It was just like, hey, so how's that going?
Yeah. Like, I guess people like I heard someone say like you know, people
Blair White, in case you're wondering.
Oh, I remember Blair White. Yeah. Some little Gary for Blair. But I remember that someone was saying like, oh, the people who are like this against Joe probably don't listen to.
There's no way that anybody who hates Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I think
hates him.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way they've listened to like
his podcast on a regular basis. I think it was on Breaking Points. He said that I want to see a graph of like people who want to shut Joe Rogan down on one axis versus another axis of like how many hours of Joe Rogan have they watched. Yeah. And I guarantee you, I could predict like
it's gonna be so low.
Yeah. So yeah, people just are railing against the idea of,
especially if you like watch him talk to like other comedians.
Yeah,
it's like, this is who you're against.
Yeah.
Some guy who's making dick jokes, like.
Yeah, and he's so new. Like, he'll talk to people from across the spectrum, and like, I really liked his apology. I think that was masterfully done.
It was the biggest shit on anybody. Because all the words were just carefully done. Like, he didn't even apologize. He's just like, I'm really sorry that it ended up coming like that they feel like that. Yeah. He's just like, it's weird being in this position. And he's like, I love that guy. There's a lot of strange things happening out there.
Yeah.
Why am I even in this position? I don't know.
Yeah. It's like, for whatever reason, like,
you know what I can do? I can promise to do better.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, it's like, oh, I could bring on this guy and then have someone with a different opinion. And it's funny because this is like 5 episodes after he literally called out somebody for like being on the show. The guy where the Australian journalist.
Oh, Josh Zepp?
Yeah.
I think that's his name.
Yeah. Struggling with it before. I was like, that's.
Or he tweeted about it and was like, "Hey, I got this wrong. Here's the clip."
Yeah.
But he's done that before.
Yeah, yes, and that's why people who listen to him on a regular basis.
We know it's like, when he fucks up, like if he fucks up, he's either making a joke, and it's not supposed to be taken literally, or he apologizes
because he acknowledged that. Oh well, I saw some other information, and now I acknowledge that it was wrong. Pending you, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, my bad. And then he even talks about it all the time, where he's just like, I think you should just say how you feel or say what you think, and then like. If you're wrong about something, just apologize for it and then just move on. He's like, I'm a nice guy and like I'm willing to talk to these like people who are railing against me. He's like, I think they just don't. They have this idea of me because it's like, and
he's friends
like,
with everybody.
Yeah, he was talking about there's an asymmetry. He acknowledges that there's like a not just like the what he thinks, but he's just like there's an asymmetry where like I'm over here talking or I'm on stage telling these jokes. And I need people to acknowledge, like, this isn't me, or, like, this part is me, and then, like, I'll say something, and sometimes I'm wrong, I'm an idiot. And just, like, damn, like, that's an incredible humility. Like, how do you battle against that? That's, like, going, like, following Eminem after that 8 Mile, I am white, I am a fucking bum. It's like, ooh, I do live in a trailer with my mom. Or, you know what, and, Joe's apology just reminded me of, the new Silk Sonic song, Bruno Mars and your boy.
Who's my boy? The Island Boys?
Yeah, the Island Boy. No. I just say your boy because I'm terrible with names. But the guy who was on Silk Sonic with that album with Bruno Mars.
Oh, I don't know.
This bitch smoking out the window. Oh, shit. Oh man, yeah.
I'm old.
Oh yeah, I gotta check. It's like the most passive aggressive fuck you song. See you later, but it's just like it's worth watching. It's worth watching. Okay. But it's just like it's just super passive aggressive, pretty much. He's just like he just like the chorus is just like I thought that this girl belonged to only me. But I was wrong. She belongs to everybody. Everybody. I was just like, oh shit. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh fuck this bitch. I feel so hurt. He's just like, nah, I was wrong. She doesn't belong to me. So yeah, that was masterfully done. I'm a big fan. And yeah. That's just like one little step in the I can't even, I'm kind of sad because I can't even say it's a step in the right direction because for real, like there's so many things that have already been taken away of what we're able to talk about that is really just like you're still allowed to look this way. Like that wasn't taken away, but it's like we need to do a lot more just to get everybody to start saying like, all right, like this is the direction we should be going in. Like it's amazing how many people are so just brainwashed into thinking that Youngkin is the person who did this at 95. It's like no, like we could look at the things chronologically and we could see he's not even in office and I don't care. Oh, the other thing, like we started talking about Biden and he was just like, oh yeah, and Trump made us pull out of Iraq and made us pull out of Afghanistan. And I was like, no, like that was Biden pulled us out of it. He's like, no, but Trump set it into motion already. And I was like, no.
Isn't that what you guys wanted?
Yeah, I was like, wait, no. And I was like, everybody says he would. And like he started the talking about it.
That's the one thing that pisses me off the fucking most is when Democrats are all about the military-industrial complex. They're the ones who are supposed to be
walking contradiction.
They're the ones that are supposed to be all against these wars, and then Obama comes in, and it's like, how about we just run out of bombs because we blew them up? We blew too many people up. Yeah, how about we just use up the drone strikes a little bit? That happened.
It did. Yeah,
we ran.
I'm making jokes,
bombs.
but oh, I thought you talking about the drone strikes. I didn't know about the running out of bombs. Oh, I didn't know that. Holy shit.
Or at least like I would have to look into it more because it
Oh,
could be
there was a shortage or something like
well,
that.
it could be like that. We like the amount of missiles that we had in like Afghanistan or something like that. Like we depleted that. It was. I'm assuming it was maybe that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Oh
think,
yeah, no, I could see that because
like I don't think we actually ran out of
yeah,
bomb,
yeah.
but like
No, but the
like,
supplies were limited.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that happens.
We ran out.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we ran
Yeah.
out of it, and then we had to get more.
Well, yeah, the sad thing about that, like people think about cutting military spending, like okay, we cut military spending and that's that. Like what people don't understand, especially like in a time of war or like a conflict, whatever you want to call it. When we cut military spending, what gets cut is some of those supplies that are going out to our people out there. So it's like before, like okay, we put in military spending. It's like all right, they got supplies for days. They got oodles and oodles of packs and gear to choose from, and like they're not so worried about rationing or doing this or that. And they could operate more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could argue the efficiency aspect of it, but you don't want to be sitting there in the middle of a fucking firefight counting your bullets. You know what I mean? So when that's that kind of shit, and they really try not to cut it, but that's the kind of shit that gets cut when they cut the military. They just think, oh, we're just gonna cut spending, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, everything is gonna be fine. Like, you know, if I come over here and just cut your budget in whatever proportionate, like, you're not gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna everything will be fine. I'll figure it out. Like, no, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna be like, wait, do I pay the water bill or the light bill?
Well, it's
do
just
I buy
like
groceries
when,
or
when
mortgage?
when AOC said we always have the ability to fund a war. It was like her talking about like the free healthcare and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm sorry, but it doesn't take $5 billion a year to fund a war.
Yeah. So they're talking about like what's
like trillion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it's
trillion.
I'm not familiar with the figure, but yeah, the issue was like the argument about sustainability. We could have that conversation.
My bad. It's trillion.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Because her plan, remember like that plan that she was
the Green New Deal you're talking about, or
something different?
because this is concerning the military.
It was like I think it was a combination of free healthcare and I think the Green Deal. It was like going to cost $4 trillion a year, which is essentially doubling the budget of the United States. And she said, "Oh, we always find the ability to fund a war." Wow. And it was like, yeah, it doesn't cost $5 trillion to fund a war.
I know.
That's like 4 wars.
Yeah. Well, I'm not familiar with that, but I know Biden's plan, like the Build Back Better, and then the infrastructure plan, like that was like a large amount, like it was something like proportionate to whatever the debt that we had.
Sounded like something from the House of Cards show.
Yeah, I love that show. That's just I need to finish watching.
That's just disorganized labor.
Yeah, yo, that's a cold dude, man. I love Kevin Spacey. Yo. I don't know what he does to little kids, but I don't know what he does to little boy.
No, he didn't do that. They were all old.
Oh,
they're all
okay.
of age.
Okay.
No pedophilia.
Okay.
It was just sexual assault of young men.
Okay. That's another day. I'm not gonna get into that, man. But cause I mean, like that's not the same. Like, were they calling that sexual? Or were they calling it rape? Or were they calling it?
This is assault.
Okay.
Or sexual misconduct, stuff like that. It wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, there could be a rape in there, but I mean, I know.
I don't even know the details of it to really. I'm over here just being biased because I wanted to finish House of Cards.
I didn't even watch the last season.
Yeah, I'm probably a couple seasons behind. I'm like right at the part when he becomes president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but you got another like 2 or 3 seasons where he's in the show.
Yeah.
It's only the last season that he's not in it.
Okay. Yeah, man.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah. But I want to dive into this the CRT debate. I remember the debate that you sent me.
Oh, James Lindsay.
Yeah. I was kind of. I told you that I was listening to Joe Rogan, and I was kind of like I was tuning in. I was moving around doing stuff with the kids.
Well, Lindsay was just on Rogan.
Yeah, and like I was.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah,
Okay.
or I was listening to him and I didn't realize who it was, but I was listening to him and I was like, man, this guy's like really nuanced. I really like what this guy's saying. Like, yeah, this guy's super intelligent. And then as it's going, I was like, I've heard these words before. And then I look at him, I was like, huh. And then I look back at the debate. I was like, oh, that is the same guy.
It's the main guy from that debate.
Yeah. And like, see, and I wouldn't even know it because, like, you see, when you're sitting down with Joe, like the thing about the debate, like, first of all, I like the debate, because for the reason that no one else, I haven't seen anybody else really have a conversation about critical race theory that was encompassing all the sides in one place like that. So I appreciated it for that, but it was a fucking cluster. It was terrible. Like, the shit was all over the place, and they're just like, they weren't really. It wasn't.
He's trying to shit on it.
Yeah.
On critical race theory, and then they're just trying to say that he's being dishonest and he's biased.
Yeah.
And then they're just yelling about it.
Yeah. It's just like that. It's just gross.
Yeah, I just didn't like it. It was fun.
I was like at the beginning. I liked it for like what it was, but I was just like, man, like I much prefer like the sit down that he had with Joe Rogan because it's like he was able to flesh out his thoughts a lot more. I was like, man, imagine if they had like a Joe Rogan-esque kind of environment when they're like just talking about this stuff and they're just able to flesh out their ideas.
Well,
like,
that's in part to the moderator.
Yeah.
The moderator has to control the vibe of the debate.
And I guess, and also it's like the people have to go in with good faith also because it's like because like I mean you could have a great moderator but then one person just starts popping off and it's just like all right like this is a little hostile. It's like as opposed to like like what do you mean by that like explore this conversation as opposed to trying to like
James doesn't go in with he goes in with like to try and slit your throat.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, oh, damn, like, this guy. This is the first time I was exposed to him, so I was like, yo, who is this guy? Because, like, there's some stuff that he was saying, like, that I had to go, I was like, neo-Marxist, like, what's, or like,
well, he was one of the first.
Univariable.
He was one of the first whistleblowers, or, I guess whistleblowers, to saying that this is a potential issue.
Yeah,
So he's been there since the beginning.
I follow, yeah. So I mean, and like definitely, like he has a bias, like for sure, but it's not. I acknowledge
it's a well-educated bias.
Yeah, very well educated, and
it's not an ignorant bias.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like I didn't like it because I throughout it I was just like, man, like he's labeling this as Marxist, and it's like I'm like, nah, like he's trying to like he's name calling it. Like I want to just talk about the ideas itself and like let it stand for what it is, but. The people who run like Black Lives Matter, for example, they are linked to like they bought that big complex that were like ran by the Canadian
the founders were Marxists.
Yeah, and so it's like
they in an interview they said that we're Marxists.
They self-identify as Marxists, so I'm just like
trained Marxists is the actual phrase.
So I can't.
They were trained Marxists.
So as much as I didn't like how he was trying to label it this way, I can't say that. He mislabeled it. You know what I mean? Like I can't say he's wrong. I can say like, oh, I didn't like it because I felt like it stopped the or it didn't allow for them to like flesh out the. But again, I'm like go happy Disney World type kumbaya, everyone get together type of thing and talk about our problems type of thing. Whereas like like you said, like he was going in with a scalpel. Like it's like let's take these.
It's like socialism with capitalism.
Yeah.
They say that they hate it, but then they use it to accumulate large amounts of wealth.
Yeah, and like, and honestly, like we have like a hybrid system, like where it's like there's like socialist aspects of it, or there's capitalist aspects of it, but it's like, the system overall we call capitalist because that's the only system that allows for that variability. Like you can't have a socialist. Well, never mind. There's China. But like you can't have like if you have a socialist government, it's a very fine line between allowing like how you're able to have a capitalist society or a capitalist economy. And I guess China is doing it, but they're also, their idea of freedom is almost non-existent. So we're not comfortable in this country with that level of regimentation and authoritarianism. So we're not, like, that's not okay for us. So to try to balance out socialist principles with capitalist economy, we can't mimic what China's doing. Like, nobody, I don't think anybody would want to. Or I would hope nobody would want to.
Yeah.
But if you, in a capitalist society, you can have, for example, companies that are owned by the workers, and so it's like socialist in principle, or companies that give out big bonuses, or a company that they give out shares of the publicly traded stocks, or discounted price for buying stocks of the company to the whoever's working, or you know, there's ways to go about it that's a little bit more balanced. So it's like, I'm not, so like I understand like Marxists and like the socialist theory overall, like wanting like better for society, but I think the argument against it is just what's sustainable. So it's like, we already know, like, and they always bring up like the failed socialist societies and countries, and then like the argument against it is like, well, look at these countries, the first world countries that have all these socialist programs that we don't have over here. It's like, yeah, and then the argument, oh, well, we're not them. It's like, well, let's just talk about like, okay, that's what they have, and this is what we have. Does it make sense for us to transition to that? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. There's a conversation there. But that conversation is not being had because we're just name calling back and forth. So I would like those ideas to get fleshed out in a Joe Rogan-esque type of environment that didn't exist on that stage. So that's why I didn't like it, because I saw the potential what it could have been, or it could have just been like, oh, you start talking about those nuances and they're just like, yeah.
It was what it was.
Yeah. That's true, man.
You're not gonna get that.
I'm still hoping for it, man. The optimist over here, man.
Because the majority of the people that are the loudest voices of those ideas, they don't have like a real leg to stand on.
Yeah, so the big voices of the socialist ideas, or
like the CRT ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like they're railing against the extremists.
Like, take Cornel West. You know what Cornel West is.
It sounds so familiar. I'm just
Afro beard, always.
Oh yeah,
black.
yes, yeah. my brother. Yeah. Okay, I'll try to. I gotta get in character.
Hold on, my brother.
Yeah. No.
So he's not a Republican.
Yeah.
He's like everything but he also has nuanced ideas, and
yes,
he pushes back against narratives every now and then, and
yeah,
he's pretty intelligent. He's wrote a bunch of books, so like he can come on and defend even a more radical point because he's knowledged in it.
Yeah.
Most of the people that come from like the CRT thing, it's just menial regular college education, and
I see what you're saying.
we grew up in a society that has racism and has systematically oppressed black people.
Yeah,
and will always systematically oppress black people until we overturn it.
Yeah, because it's like, when like I was as upset as I was like, Lindsay's being like, oh, he's calling it race Marxism. I was like, that's a lazy label. Like, he's just trying to mislabel it. CRT is way lazier, because like it's a theory that just assumes. And see, and this is something that I could say, like, this is something that I was angry about before. Like, I was just like, my bias was coming out, and I was like, this fucking shit. It's just about demeaning, and it's terrible for, so now I have more of a better way of saying it, because I'm not as angry. I'm a little bit more exposed to, able to process my emotions a little bit. Fucking Mexicans. Yeah, they're using an assumption that, they're saying that, race exists in America. It was built upon racism, and there's a lot of institutions that were in place then that perpetuated racism, so therefore racism still exists. And like, all right, well, we could start combing out through the details, and they're like, no. Let's assume it. Everything's racism.
No, because that's the point. Is that they have a theory.
Yeah.
They assume that theory is correct.
They assume that.
And then they just. And then
they paint everything in that picture.
Where
everything
I brought
is that.
Cornel West up. It's like his opinions, regardless of whether you think they're right or wrong.
He will flesh out that.
No, he already did.
Yeah.
That's why he has that opinion.
Yeah. I'm like he's able to get on stage with somebody.
He's studied things. He's looked at peer reviews. He's looked at data analysis. Like he's looked at things, and then he has opinions on things, and then maybe his opinion changes, maybe it doesn't as new data presents itself. Yeah. Whereas people in that spectrum, it's all predicated on we're right.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get what you're looking for.
I'm hoping that more people aspire to him versus not. Yeah? Yeah, okay. That happens.
He was doing on purpose.
Well, if you don't, well, what happened then? Do you like it?
No.
Okay, then tell him.
Yeah, I said one more time I'm gonna have to tell Daddy, and he still laughed.
But I want people to aspire more to that kind of attitude, have more of a nuance.
But that's the attitude in it.
Yeah, and I hate that because it's just.
That's what I'm saying. Like the whole point of it is that this is true. Mm-hmm. So the moment you question it, you're not on board with it, and then you're ostracized from it. So you're asking to have a more clear dialogue on it when the whole point is to not even have a dialogue about it.
Yeah, I know.
You're never going to have a dialogue.
I'm hoping that more people will just see how lazy it is. Let's not label everything as racist because that's kind of crazy. So it's we could say
I could call it racist. They were segregating schools.
Yeah.
This mom was why are you? I forget what it was. I think it was first grade or second grade. It's why did you separate the kids based off of their skin tone and then make the lighter ones apologize to the blacker ones?
Something that I like that came out of the debate. They were talking about race is it wasn't a skin color thing. It wasn't a genetic thing. It was a nationality thing. It was a social construct. So it's at least they acknowledge there that it's okay, this is how you self-identify, because some people don't identify this way or that way. Some people are no, I'm not African American, I'm black, or some people no, I'm not black, I'm this. All right, but yeah, that part that's the part that I was exposed to with critical race theory, and that's why I got as upset as I did, because I'm just why the fuck are we doing this? What's the goal? Where does this lead to? It just leads to if we just keep on following this path all the way down to its fruition, you just have people who are just permanently scarred, who are just continually showing off their scars and wanting sympathy forever. And then where does that fucking end? When everybody else helps you accomplish whatever you want to, it's crazy. So it's I don't get the goal. I don't understand it. And
I don't think anybody does.
I think if people just flesh it out, or maybe I've never been presented with it the right way, and if someone doesn't, I'm oh, okay. But maybe the people if someone was because there's so much racism baked into the history of our country, where the theory's based is gonna assume that everything's racist. And then we're going to have dialogues and conversations and comb through the details as a society to determine what is racist and what's not, what is fair and what's not. Well, that
sounds fucked up, but who gives a shit?
Well, it's I feel what you're saying, because
you can just change it.
Yeah, I get it, man. Because That's the goal. Like that's when I think about like
I don't
a goal.
I don't care about what happened 60 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. It's like even if it's like let's say like over the course of just someone who's been traumatized as a child, they went through something terrible and intense as a child. It's like, oh wow, that was terrible
what's
and
worse,
intense.
being black or getting raped as a 5-year-old?
It's like
because one leads to depression, suicide, and like drug abuse.
Yeah, but like
the other one, what, you're mad and angry?
But like the thing is, like I remember talking to somebody who was like who went through some like intense depression or like something very traumatic, and we were just talking about bullshit and just cracking jokes or whatever, and then like we were talking about started talking about their depression and how they got out of it, and they were talking about like how them going through this journey with the therapist, and I was like, oh wow, so your therapist really helped you get to this point, because like I see like you really have a good like a solid foundation, like you don't like this shit doesn't faze you at all, and they were just like no, and they're like the therapist didn't help me didn't help me do this. The therapist gave me the tools that I needed in order for me to get myself out of this. And I was just like, oh, okay. And they're like, it sounds like I'm not trying to verbally masturbate or anything. Like they're like, I'm not trying to just like make it sound cool just for the sake of sounding cool. It's just like she said, it's important for you or it was important for me to understand that nobody could help me unless I decided to. And that's the cliche cookie cutter type of thing, a fortune cookie type of thing. But that's when I apply that same logic, like, okay, someone going through intense trauma and this bad shit happened, and like, woe is me, look at these scars. It's like, yeah, and acknowledge it in order for you to start healing and getting help. But then after that, then you have to make a decision to do something for yourself in order to take that next step. Because if you don't, no amount of external assistance is going to help you get to that next level. And that's what she was emphasizing. And when I look at critical race theory, that's what I see. I see like they're just constantly like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And like to your point, we're just like, who gives a shit? Because like you got to change it yourself. It's like black people as a community have to get to a point. And I know what you're saying.
I'm more talking about like all these like the history of this country. It's like who gives a fuck?
Yeah, because that's like look at these scars.
Okay,
look at these
like
scars,
you were once enslaved, and
yeah.
what happened? Well, you fought and you got the right to vote.
Yeah, so it's like
you did something.
Yeah,
and then things changed for the better.
Accomplished. You had a goal. You got the goal
Like
accomplished.
going back and trying to like judge
relitigate
things,
the.
It makes
I see what your frustration is. It's almost like you fighting with
no, it's just like just do something.
It kind of this just popped into my head. It's like
I don't know. Take care of your kids. Raise your kids. I've been doing that.
Well, when I was like, when I was arguing with the missus, it's like, she'll remind me of something that happened. It's like, wait. I thought, didn't we talk about that? Wasn't that solved? Like, yeah, but I'm still upset about it. It was like, all right, we could talk about how you feel about it, but don't re-talk about like about the issue as if it was never resolved, or else there's no reason to resolve it in the first place. You just relitigate it.
I just don't see the point of like constantly trying to relive and like judge things that happened. Like, can we please talk about how problematic Thomas Jefferson was? And I'm like, do we even have to?
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you.
He was pretty smart and accomplished a bunch of things and maybe did some fucked up shit. And he died 150 years ago. So why are we talking about him?
No, I feel you. That's my
people idolize him as like, oh, he's a founding father and he wrote the Declaration of Independence. But outside of that, people aren't like, I'm calling my son Thomas Jefferson. Like, he's not admired to that extent. It's just like, hey, he's a big part of the history of this country.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with talking about it. Like, if people want to talk about it, like, oh, well, he wasn't perfect, and he was kind of fucked up because he did these things. I'll be like, acknowledge, and that's a conversation to have, and that's worth having. But that's not essential for us. That doesn't help us with the goal. You know what I mean? And people act like it does or think that it does, and that's what I mean. Like, I don't think critical race theory has a goal that propels the African American or black community forward, and that's my frustration with it. And I don't seeing it fleshed out to its fruition. I don't see us getting from A to B. I see us being at A and crying about being at A and complaining about this and having everybody sympathize with us being at A, and then never really, like, we're downgrading where we're at, because we're not even talking about where we're at right now. We're talking about things that have happened, and it's like, oh, well, I'm upset because this had happened. And it's like, that trauma was real, this shit is real, and there are real ghosts, like race norming and shit like that has real effects on us. But like, we could talk about those policies and changing those ideas and
also, it's like, get your own shit together.
Yeah, it's disorganized, because it's almost like it's
I know
almost
black
like
people
it's
well enough to know all
relitigating.
this shit with like colorism and like hair, and it's like, yeah, y'all can't even like each other. How the fuck are you trying to fucking?
Well, I mean, but that's the. I mean, when
Y'all getting mad about light skin and dark skin.
yeah, I mean, it's new. Everyone's trying to stand out and be their own thing. So it's just like,
We get like y'all aren't even on the same page, and you're trying to tell me how I need to do my shit.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a little like
You're wearing
my
my mom's hair in your head.
Yeah. Like, African Americans are like really suffering from that, and that's one of those things that's like an offshoot, like that's a ghost of real racism, because they were cut off from homeland, because they were treated as secondhand subhuman. Then we've gotten to this place where we're not united, and we are where we're at, and there's all these differing opinions, and then everyone's trying to struggle for an identity, to the point where people don't even want to call African Americans anymore. They want to be called Black Americans. Which is okay, whatever. But like that
makes sense to me.
I get it,
the
but
fuck you got with Africa?
well, it's like
even someone like you.
Well, I got pretty direct roots. My dad's right. That's family right there. That's your uncle from Ghana. Oh, okay.
Oh, never mind. I was thinking.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, though.
I know people that are like from like Haiti.
Yeah,
they're like 100% Haitian or Jamaican or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good way to
like they don't have any connection to Africa.
Yeah, like they know that they can trace the roots back there, but they're just like, where from? They're like, but they identify there's a Haitian culture. Yeah. So I think that's what Black Americans are trying to establish a culture, and because
you already do have a culture. I know, nobody's culture is like yours.
But it's like it's so fragmented because there's no base to pull from. Whereas opposed
does it even
to
matter?
Well, it does in terms of uniformity. Like that's the reason why it's so fragmented. Where there's this colorism thing, and there's this hair thing, and
white people aren't even united.
I know, but like it's a little bit more united. Like, no one looks at the Bank of America and go like, "That's an Italian bank." Like, everyone's like, "No, that's the Bank of America."
Is
like,
it Italian?
Yeah. It was founded by. But like the uniformity, like it plays a role. Like, it's almost like if you go to something, you going through. You have suffers from trauma, and you're just talking to the person, and some of them go through like, oh, what was your childhood like, to like establish the roots, and like, oh, this is what it is, and because you went through this, and because of these foundations or these experiences, this is the root cause of why you're angry with everything, or why you hate men or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, look at this root, and this is what it's wrought. So we could look at it like from, and I think if we look at race from that dynamic, I think that's worth looking at. And there's something like the schisms that exist in the African American community, or why the black man and the black woman find themselves in such contention. Like those are conversations that can be had, and you could trace those roots back to.
But I feel like that needs to be addressed before you start addressing everything else.
Yeah, and because that's foundational. That's a goal. Yeah, that's foundational for creating a society where it's like, oh, well, how can we create a society and create things with each other when we can't even trust the opposite sex to build a family? So yeah, 100%.
Like, you don't have a working car, but you're trying to tell me what I should do to my car.
Yeah.
Your car doesn't run well. We need to change that. It's like
jailhouse
you're on
lawyers.
the side of the road.
Yeah, you sitting there in jail, just like, yeah, young blood, yeah. You shouldn't have said that. You should have done this. Like, nigga, you sitting in here with jail with me. Yeah. Fuck you. But yeah, that kind of hypocrisy. Like, there's the goal of CRT is not set, and I think it's like chasing the awesomeness of the civil rights movement. But the civil rights movement was a very specific thing for a very specific goal, and then boom, like goal accomplished, mission accomplished, and then like move on to the next thing.
Hey, but it's just like everything else in our society. It's all fucking flaky and it has just fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. But that's why I want people to be more take the Cornel West approach, or like be more nuanced, or acknowledge bias, or like flesh out the idea of like, yeah, like I do want to learn history. Yeah, I do want to focus on these things, but let me have a goal in sight before I just go on this journey. Or we could go on this journey if we want to, but we have to acknowledge that it's not gonna get us to where we are. Like people are upset about like the unfairness that they feel like that Black America has experienced in America, but they don't have a goal as to like, okay, well, how do we fix it? They're just like, oh, reparations. That sounds like a good idea. It's like, okay, how much? Let's talk about how to quantify it and how do you identify it? Like, okay, like support Black businesses.
The story came out about that shit. Some teacher was like, "Oh, we're getting you dinner or something like that," or some student was talking about reparations, and then like some director was like, "Well, we're bringing you dinner," and they were like, "Good, that's a start."
Oh, jeez. Yeah, man. But it's like, I mean, even if like we could have a conversation about that, like that's a conversation like we had, because that's
reparations.
Yeah.
No, we can't.
We can, but I don't.
No, we can't.
You don't think so?
No.
I think it could be had. I personally disagree with it, but I mean,
it's too much all over the place. That's why.
That's why I disagree with it. But I think like we could have a conversation about it. But it's like it's like the same thing.
Constructively.
Well, I think it's good once you like you go on this path and you realize like, oh, that's not a real. Well, there was one thing that's like, oh, the institutions that are built on the foundation of or that were built off of like slave labor. Like, okay, well, they owe reparations. It was like, but who did they pay it to? It's like that's a good target for like, okay, well, they could owe this, but then at that point, it's like, yeah, but
you could
how
find
much?
The genealogy of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like if there's an institution that existed purely like built by slave hands, it's like, all right, but slaves were not given the proper compensation for it because at that point they were subhuman. It's like, okay, well, you want to take money from those institutions. First, we have to talk about the quantifiable amount, but then where do you put it? Like, who do you give it to? And you can't just be like, oh, mail everybody a check. It's like, I'm sure people would appreciate that, but that's not going to help us as a community. Uh-huh. People talked about, oh, well, Black-owned businesses. It's like, no, like, Black-owned businesses doesn't mean that it's there for the Black community. Like, it's just some guy owns this business. And
that's
like,
individual wealth.
Yeah, that's individual wealth. Now, if that's the goal is just upping the amount of individual wealth because these are legacy slave families. It's like, yeah, we could have. That's where I'm like, okay, we could have this conversation, but it's like, like that. At least that's a goal. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a goal in mind, and we could talk about it, and like one way or another, Again, I still like. I'm not a big fan, but I could see the argument at least. But like with critical race theory, I do not see the argument. I do not see the goal. I don't see how it's aside from continuously making under the guise of teaching history, making Black people feel less than, and making other white people feel bad for stuff that they didn't do. That's the crux of it, and I think that's how I simplified it when I was super pissed off. That's at the base of it. That's what I see as the goal, and I know that's not what it sets out to do, but that's the unintentional consequence that's going to come from all of this activity, and I haven't seen anything to point in any kind of direction other than that. So, yeah, you look tired as fuck, man. Yeah, you're just like.
I like died yesterday.
We gonna play ball or what?
Oh my god, my back is so blown out.
Oh boy, you must have been a big boy.
Yeah, I found one of those gifts yesterday.
Oh god, we're
I
going back to this.
I opened a present.
Oh yeah, was it big and black? Oh man. All right.
What's next on our docket?
Well, I was gonna talk. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Looking at just trying to finish up with the critical race theory real fast. Like just looking at like the media, you would think that critical race theory or Black Lives Matter is all there was in the African American community, but there's so much shit that's worth, like we were talking about education, crime, and economics. Like those are actual goal, like those are actual things, or those are institutions that we can focus on in order to like assist the the community. Those I think those are solid goals that everybody from across the aisle can agree on. Like, oh, these are things to hone in on and how we
I
go
think
about
everything's
it.
too polarized for us to do that.
Yeah, I think we have to really comb through the details. Like for education, it's like don't just look at the overall education score. We have to look at like the progression from beginning to end, as opposed to just the status of where they're performing academically. Where it's like usually like that's the standardized test and the SAT score is like it determines how good the students are or not. But it doesn't really determine how good the school is. Just determines how good the students are at doing this. And in better areas, people have a parent at home or are able to afford a private tutor or aren't dealing with a bunch of trauma. So it doesn't mean that the school is necessarily better than the schools in the bad neighborhoods. It just means that the preparedness of the students going into school is at a higher level with the kids who are in bad environments where they don't have light in their apartment to turn on to finish reading the book that they had for yesterday's assignment.
Yeah.
So it's like those kind of details is like that's where I like to focus on. That's what I think needs to get focused on in terms of moving forward. But critical race theory and Black Lives Matter, it's like there's just a thing out like the like I know Black Lives Matter, like there's certain places in certain communities where they're like providing these services and they're doing stuff for the community, but it's like
they're productive.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But I can't say for the most part, but there is an
from what you have seen.
From what I've seen, there's an element.
In your unprofessional opinion.
Yes, exactly. In my Google search opinion, like there's.
I'm more of a Yahoo News man myself.
Google. But the money that's allocated to certain communities isn't fully fleshed out in said communities. Like if people donate $1 million towards a certain community, $1 million worth of services doesn't come out the other end. The money's going somewhere, and then like there's this big real estate venture going on, buying a bunch of these properties, and it's like that separate from what's going on, and not against paying your employees, because it's like even for nonprofits, like you get paid a salary, and like like you need something to help put food on the table, but you don't need a mansion or 2 or 3, and that's my issue with one of my issues with Black Lives Matter. But the other one is that we're again just focusing on like what they're doing to us, and that's
a money making business. That's what it is.
I don't like people drifting off my people. Like that's fucked up.
Well, they are your people.
Yeah.
Not white people.
I don't. Well, I let me change.
Oh, never mind. One of them's mine.
Well, no. I don't.
Mr. King.
I'm not thinking about it like that. Like when I'm saying my people, I'm saying like
I know what you mean, like your community and everything.
Yeah. People are like struggling in the midst of it, like dealing with shit on a day-to-day, like too busy to find out what the fuck you're doing.
And you're just making money off of it.
Yeah, that's fucked up. That's not okay. Cause like they put their faith in you and they believe in you. And they put their hard-earned or people from outside like are really giving towards that cause, really trying to help out, and then you're just taking advantage of it, and that causes rips up society. Where it's like I can't trust someone who says that they're all for my people struggling over here. Like that's the kind of like I can't even trust. Who can I trust? I can't trust the person whose sole purpose is to save Black life.
I know who you could trust.
Who's that?
Donald J.
Yeah, if that was a product placement.
He's a man you can believe in.
Oh shit. But yeah, that's my big gripe with it, and it's just like we're focused on they're doing this to us and they're doing this It's like all right, good, but it's like and that is an issue, but it's been conflated, and there's some stuff that we could do for ourselves in order to accomplish the level of success that we want to see, and no amount of external help is going to help us get there, or it's going to accomplish it on its own. And as much as outside help is appreciated, I'd love for somebody to just come by and hey man, you look like you're struggling a little bit. Here's some money. Like, all right, cool. But
that would be ideal.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Like, who's not a fan?
I'm a fan.
Like, so stopping by on my Saturdays, just like dropping off a little extra cash for me to go out and spend and buy some movie tickets. That's nice. But at the end of the day, I still need to work a job or find some way to generate income or invest or whatnot in order to have some self-sustaining wealth. And if I'm not doing that, then no amount of help or, I guess there's a nominal dollar amount that would be able to help me accomplish this for X amount of time, but that's not sustainable and that's not something that I'll have pride in. Like, when I look at my people, it's like, oh, we're prideful people, and because I have roots in where we come from, I'm just like, yo, that's a proud civilization right there. It's like, and that's, a lot of that's stuff that's going awry there is a whole other conversation. But just to see like what we're capable of accomplishing, and to just sitting over here crying about what we don't have, like it's just you have every opportunity imaginable. Versus like I have cousins back home, college educated, who can't get a fucking job. They can't because there's no jobs available. Meanwhile, over here, like people are getting paid for not working, and just like that shit's fucking crazy. So, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with critical race theory. Let's go on to something that makes me smile.
You want to talk about Whoopies?
Oh yeah, Whoopi makes me smile.
Whoopi Adolf Goldberg.
It's kind of related to what we're talking about because I think she's so sucked into
Wait, when are people just gonna learn to stay away from the Holocaust? Unless you're making a joke, just don't comment on the Holocaust.
I think she's what it is that she's so sucked into American culture and American ideas of what race is, delineated amongst mostly black versus white lines, that when it comes to the rest of the world, she doesn't know. I mean, I don't want to make fun of her. She's just not aware because she's looking at it from this lens, so she's just thinking like she's looking at it the same way that people look at like, oh well, black people enslaved black people. It's like, yeah, but there's like there's so much there's more diversity in Africa than there's all over the world. Like you can't relegate like, oh yeah, it's just black people against black people. It's like, no, it was, but it's like the same thing like, oh, white people fighting white people. Like, no, those were Romans and those were Gauls. Like, it's different. Like, it's just, and so she's relegating it the same way.
Yeah, like the Italians, there's no resemblance between me and Italians.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like
they even have a different skin tone.
Yeah,
on average.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So it's just like it's just a very different thing. But she's looking at things,
facial features, facial structures.
Yeah.
Different altitudes.
It's fundamentally different. Cultures are different. Religions have been,
And the funny thing is, race is just a social construct.
Yeah, exactly. And so she associates it more with
Jews
with
identify
colors.
as their own group. They always have, and then they've been segregated to the point where that's.
I think
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think she's talking about it from her perspective. From her perspective, she doesn't
That's such a
delineate
stupid
the
thing to say.
Jewish people from anybody else, any other white person in Germany. But what she failed to understand is that the Nazis themselves weren't like, oh, they said we are, literally, it's in the rhetoric, we are the superior race. So it's like
There's a book about it.
there's a few books about it, a couple history documentaries.
Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
Well, that's the book. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
There's a book about it.
Oh. You're talking about the
There's
propaganda.
There's a book
yeah.
about how the Jews are different and like not to be trusted and everything.
Yeah, it's sneaky sniveling. Ooh. And they were talking about a book that was kind of nodding to that, because it was like a book about because it was relegating mice to the Jewish community.
Oh,
so
is that what that came from?
Yeah, so it's like it was kind of already
The
like
mouse?
that's already.
No, what's it called? It's
At
mouse, right, or something like that.
At least that's what I think. Because I mean, I'm making an assumption.
What's it called?
Let me,
It's called
let me,
mouse, right?
Hi, Daddy.
Hey, what's up? Hold on. Shh.
I almost finished.
No. Goodbye.
It's mouse, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, let me.
It's got the swastika.
Well, let me expose my ignorance. I don't know what the book is called. I don't know if the book was about Jewish people, but I know that Jewish people have been demeaned sometime to and talked to about as mice, and that's what I figured. That this must be a mouse. A mouse. God damn it! I'm about to get canceled. This must be a book that's talking about it, but I don't really know what it. But I'm pretty sure. That's what it is.
I just remember saying, "Oh, that's some bookstores giving free shipping to anybody that wants it."
Yeah.
Because it's being banned in some places.
Yeah. So
I'm assuming it's being banned just because the swastika's on it.
Yeah, it might be. That's a good point. Yeah, so I don't know what the reason.
Being banned because
I think it's because they
it's like a children's book.
It might be the swastika. It might also be, or a combination with the reference or the depiction of the Jewish community as mice. So that might be part of it. I don't know enough about it, but what I do know is like she's looking at it from a lens of like, oh, she looks at it all as one race. So she's like, oh, it's not a racist thing. It's maybe ethnic. It's not racist, but at that time, themselves, they identified themselves as not only a different race, but the superior race, which is the definition of racism. You not only think that you're a different race and you making prejudgments about other people based off of X, Y, or Z social construct that you decide, but you regard yourself as superior. So that maybe she just didn't know that, or maybe she's just amped up about this in the hype of critical race theory and Black Lives Matter, that she's just blind to racism in general.
Looks like a Jew wrote it. Art Spiegelman.
I mean, hey, the same way that I think there was a Native American.
I'm assuming he's Jewish. It's called, it is mouse, but it's MAUS.
Okay.
Which is either the phonetic German spelling.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah. But I mean, I think a Native American named the Redskins.
What?
The Redskins team, wasn't it named by a Native American? Was it
the logo?
Yeah,
The Redskin chief was an actual chief of I believe they're called the Black Ties.
Okay.
So it's the silhouette of a Native American.
Yeah.
It isn't a racist character. It's
yeah, it's not
which is
funny.
That they think
they changed it to. Did you tell me that?
What?
Did you change
Commanders.
Yeah, so Commanders is like the name of.
It's the people that killed them.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck, yo?
Okay, so no, but people thought that the Redskins logo was racist, but it's the literal silhouette of a Indian chief. So they think that the actual picture of a Native American is a racist character.
Damn.
Because he looks too much like a stereotypical Native American.
Yeah, Redskin.
That Black guy's nostrils are enormous.
I don't want.
That's a real black person.
Yeah.
He just so happens to have big nostrils.
It's funny in Peru they have I'm going down another rabbit hole, but I'll say that for another time. But there's
it's a Polish Jew surviving the Holocaust.
Oh, okay.
But it's as mice. The author. The book's from the 90s.
Wow.
1991.
You're just 30 years late. Like oh no, 31 years late.
It's a while ago.
Oh boy, you just missed it by generation.
Wait a minute. Date of original publication, date of publication, 1980 to 1991.
Oh wow. Wait, 2 generations late. 2 people ago. Man, so I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure enough people ripped it apart.
We're trying to cancel this book.
Yeah, enough people like.
Tennessee removed it.
Okay.
Removed from its school's curriculum. This prompted a significant widespread backlash from people questioning the board's rationale, and the book rose to become the #1 Amazon bestseller.
Oh wow. The opposite effect.
Yes, this is a very old book.
Damn.
It's a series of books from 1980 to 1991.
Wow.
So I'm assuming it's somewhat of like short stories where it's like probably like 200 pages or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it was like a recent book that came out and everybody was upset about it.
I thought so too. I know it was that old. Holy shit. Yeah, so I mean.
It's almost 30 years.
Almost my.
Oh, no, it's 31 years. Yeah, it's 31 years
well,
old.
since it stopped public, because it's 80 to 91, yeah. Right? So I mean.
So the last time it published a book was 30 years ago.
But the first time it published a book was like 10 years before I was born.
Yeah.
Now they're talking about it. All the things to fucking talk about, all the issues going on in the world. You want to talk about a goddamn book that, like, yeah, all right, buddy. Like, okay. Well, that's why I don't go to the View for my nuance.
Well, that's probably why they're probably like, oh, this is like taking away from the understanding of the Jewish struggle or something like that.
Something like that. It's just like, this is just
it's like, why remove that book in an age where we're trying to talk about discrimination?
Yeah. And see, that's the kind of shit that's like, oh, this stopping, like, we're moving in the opposite direction. Like, you stopping conversations from happening. Like, you can't even, wow, like, what elements of World War II can we talk about? If
it might have just been that it was like an older book and they're just like, we don't need this anymore. And it became this massive.
Then just leave it the fuck alone. It'll die off. Like, we'll make a declaration. I will no longer pick my nose. Like, no, just stop fucking doing it, kid. Oh, yeah. Whoopi. So I looked at that. I looked at the podcast. Just shifting gears, way from this. Fresh and Fit on Flagrant 2 that you were talking about.
Oh yeah.
And I thought I was kind of, I always regarded Andrew as an intelligent person, but I was really impressed with like the level of conversation that he was able to have about this subject with them, and I thought it was really cool that they're going back and forth. And it's just like, I thought they were having a nice conversation. It kind of felt like a big brother talking to like, oh man, it's gonna be better on the other side, man. Like, you'll see, and the little brother like, nah, I'm badass, and da-da-da. It's just like, oh man, I hope you change, da-da-da. But like in between that dialogue, those like, you had Alex in the background going like, nah, wrong.
Yeah, Alex is right in his feelings.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit! Like, I almost wanted to just to take it and just like clip out all the parts where he's just talking, like says these passive aggressive.
You know what he sounded like? He sounded like one of those like bad women hosts in radio shows, where it's just like, oh come on guys.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Oh boy.
But it's the opposite. Instead of like trying to calm it down, it's like just like
Either one I did.
it's like passive aggressive female comments.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that.
The best when he was like, "Oh, so you're just trying to like."
You're just trying to profit off of their.
No. It's like you're trying to you're trying to trick women into sleeping with you or something like that. And then Schultz is like, that's a bit unfair. Because that's what everybody does.
Yeah. It's a game.
Like, I don't go on a date, lift my leg, squeeze, and push out a... just a...
Yeah.
8 months into the relationship, and I'm eating buffalo chicken and mac and cheese. Yeah. You're gonna hear.
I'll rip it out.
You're gonna fucking hear it.
Yeah.
It might not even stink, but you're gonna fucking hear it.
They've been together for a long time. You've earned this.
Because in my mind, it's grosser for me to just sit in it or to like hide it.
I'm trying to be honest with you, girl.
Like if I just
transparency.
Here it comes. Like at least it's just like. I get a laugh and I'm fucking gross.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm like, oh God, gotta fart, and I'm just like sitting in it, then it looks like I'm like defecating myself. Whereas if I act like a 5-year-old, I'm an idiot.
Right.
You're so stupid and gross. Like, and then it becomes funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, man.
But on the first date, guess who's not farting?
Yeah. And they play like...
Or saying fuck, or saying anything until I gauge.
Yeah.
Hey, where's this person's mindset at?
Right. Because you don't put anybody off, because they're looking
I gotta blast an N.
Yeah.
On a date with a black girl.
Oh, shit, yeah. I can see that turning soft real fast.
Without at all gauging where she's at.
He's just ripping you apart in public, just like, what the fuck?
So everybody tricks everybody into sleeping with each other.
Yeah.
That's why it was funny when he said that. It's like, okay, come on, bro. Like
it's just...
you don't trick Mr. I only date white women? Like,
yeah. And that's the isn't that what they were like on Under Fire for? Like for saying that they're not night riders for Fresh and Fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like I was kind of...
It was just corny. It was just corny jokes.
Yeah, so it's just
because they kept like the problem is that they leaned too much into the ghetto black girl, and then like it just made it seem like all you think all black women are like it was just like it was just bad attempt at humor.
Yeah. And Schultz was kind of trying to give him a way out. He's like, oh, so like is it like a certain culture that you're not really
Well, they emphasize like, oh yeah, we just don't like ghetto girls.
Those kind of yeah. And like
if you're a black girl and they were like, well, is it like like polite and submissive, looking for the man to lead? It's like I'm gonna give that a chance, but most black women aren't like that.
Yeah, I don't want a submissive girl. One little fire, but like that's
a whole different thing because it's more about a non-argumentative woman. That's what submissive means.
Yeah, but
people take submissive too far when people hear that.
Yeah, no, I don't mean that. I mean like I want to have some pushback, but just because like I want to understand. But that's a separate thing.
There's just certain cultures have different like white women tend to be much more passive aggressive. Right.
And that's why I'd rather the aggressive, because like I want to know what you're thinking.
But the same thing, black women can take things too far.
Yeah, that's true. So like I understand like
or like she might pop up with something like, oh, you think I can't get another dick? You ain't shit. And then you're like, go get it then, whore.
Yeah, no. At that point, it's like no, like that's why I prefer.
If you could get another man so easily, then why are you single right now?
Yeah. No, but it's not like.
Why were you single when I met you?
That's what, but like that kind of mindset, like saying some wild shit like that. It's like, oh, you think it's okay to talk to people like that?
But that would be an example of someone who is very the opposite of being submissive.
Okay.
Because at least if someone who's passive aggressive, they're not being.
Okay.
That's just more of a shitty person. That's not. They can still be a submissive woman and be passive aggressive in their statements towards you.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I get that.
It's the general culture now for black women are not producing.
Yeah. No, I get
like a good wife.
Yeah, I get that.
Because there's too much combativeness.
I wouldn't want somebody who's passive, meaning that they wouldn't say that, but they're thinking that. That's what that's why that's my pushback against it. Oh shit, I'll be back. No, but yeah, I want to isolate my opinions of it versus the fresh and fit, like cause there's three different thoughts going on in my head. There's one is like, okay, like what happened on the pod, and then the second is like, oh, like me like putting fresh fit under a microscope in terms of like how they personally deal with relationships and women and their pod overall, and then how I look at it. So I don't know, they're kind of like it keeps shifting in between all three, but like when it comes to the white woman thing, or like the submissive woman thing, it's like, oh, like, yeah, I get they were making corny jokes and stuff like that, so I'm just like, nah, okay.
Well, they were talking about that when they clarified that later on with the Schultz thing, talking about like, well, that's an issue, is the submissiveness.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they didn't really touch on that. Oh, but okay, so yeah, we'll talk about the passive. Like when it comes to passive, or submissive, I should say.
Passive is different.
Yeah, submissive. Okay.
Passive means you're avoiding conflict and you're not dealing with it.
Yeah. I hate that shit.
Submissive means you're
not. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So they don't want someone who's passive. They want someone who's just like.
No, submissive is just a good mom.
Yeah, I follow what you're saying.
Like the guys who you go over to the house and you're like, oh, I love her. I love their mom. She's nice. Yeah. That's a submissive woman. Okay. She's not constantly getting an argument. Like if she's getting an argument, like the arguments are like, honey, we need to talk later. Not just constant emotional like fights and just
Okay. I see what's going on. I see it. Yeah, I would
understanding that I'm gonna take a backseat sometimes to my husband.
Yeah.
Not at the expense of my happiness.
Yeah.
But like, oh, like he just got back from work, and I'm gonna make him dinner.
Yeah.
He got back from work. I'm not gonna just. Why don't you go fucking make yourself something to eat? It's like, you could just say that you're tired.
Yeah, I think submissive has like this connotation with it.
Well, that's because of feminism.
Yeah, damn. I'm trapped. It's your fault. It's your fault. No,
that's a feminism idea where being submissive is like what you're thinking of. It's being passive. It's being like almost a servant to your husband. Where being submissive is like you're consciously making the effort to not be contentious with your husband.
Okay.
And letting him be more of the leader.
Yeah.
And letting him be in that placeholder where you're. She didn't like that.
Yeah, she's like, placeholder. I'll show you your place.
Is that a patriarch?
Yeah. Rise against you.
Yeah. So that's what submissive is. It's just more of like.
So more so like in terms of like the roles of like the
it's
male
literally just a good mom.
Allowing the man to lead the family or the relationship versus.
But it's literally just a good mom.
Okay.
It's like the mom that you see that like your friend's dad comes home.
Yeah.
And there's usually never any fight and contention, and she's just like, oh, you're glad to see you home. How was work? Like you're not constantly trying to like.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't ask me how my day was going. Like it's like, oh my god. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you then. I'm with you. Yeah. When I okay, so from my understanding, it's like if I say let's.
I'm trying to simplify it, so like anybody.
Right.
Like so that you or anybody listening to this is like trying to get what I'm.
Right.
I'm trying to dumb it down.
That son of a bitch, patriarchal asshole.
I'm not trying to actually give it its real definition. I'm trying to just...
Yeah, like how... Yeah. I follow, man. So, yeah, so I see, like, so... Because, like, I guess...
It's a conscious effort to do it. That's the point of it. Is that you as a woman are choosing not to constantly engage in conflict.
Yeah. So, yeah, because, like, if me and the missus have a disagreement, it's like, no, I think we should go left. She's like, no, I think we should go right. Instead of getting to, like, a tug of war, like, oh, you think I'm going to lead the family straight? It's like, oh, you think I'm going to lead the family straight? We don't do that. It's just like, all right, I say go left. She says, like, let's go right. And then, like, we'll be like, all right, well, let's just talk. Let's look at everything and look at the reason to go one way or another. Or if it's something that needs a split second decision, she'll decide just like, all right, babe, we'll go left. I don't think we should, but all right, like I'm with you wherever you want to go. If you want to go left, well, I'm with you.
So that would be a submissive choice.
That's what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay, I get that. Yeah, as opposed to just always being, no, it's right, kind of thing. And sometimes I'll be right, and she'll be like, you were right, you got it, da-da-da. Sometimes she'll be right, and I'll have to take 2 more left turns to correct myself. And then she'll just be sitting there like, So it's just like, yeah. Something that allows the structure to be more functional. Yeah, because that contention, that conflict isn't healthy for anybody, especially with kids and either with each other. Like, you don't want to just sit there and like foster that level of hatred with each other, because that's So I'm with that. I'm behind that. I want them. They're just
bad. At what is it? No, they're bad. Like
ew,
they're bad.
They're not good at exploring.
I'm so stupid.
No, man. Playing basketball after 15 years is gonna wipe you out.
No, they're bad. I can't find the word.
Well, they're not good at communicating that level of conversation. Like,
they're bad image. They're not a constructive, like.
Yeah, I don't think they're. I don't know, like and like
placeholder.
Yeah. I don't think they're capable of that level of thought, let alone that level of conversation. That's fucked up, wasn't it? Oh shit. Whoops. I really don't know. Maybe I haven't seen enough of them. From what I've seen, I don't think they're capable of having a conversation on a high level, on a level that's going to be constructive for relationship wise.
As opposed to like a Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, or like I was watching the Roommates, and it was just like I was blown away. They had a couple females on, and they were talking about relationship dynamics and like
because that dude's in control of himself.
It was a much higher level conversation about, and I don't really watch them like that. That like I have them subscribed, and every now and then the stuff will come up, and I'll be like, oh, that looks cool. But then like because of this video, because I watched the Flagrant 2 joint. And I was like, well, I know the Roommates were like one of the only guys that were like helping or standing by Fresh and Fit when they had that whole fallout after the Alvin Preach joint. But then I was like, I wonder what these guys are about. And then like I was just blown away because I had low expectations. I was like, these guys associate themselves with Fresh and Fit.
No, they're very good.
Yeah, they're incredible. I was very impressed. So that's the level of dialogue. So like I really like what Andrew Schultz brought to that conversation. I was like, damn, come on, Alex, like like kind of like not that he needed to be submissive or anything like that. You share your opinion, but like don't be rude. Like that's fucking rude, man.
Well, he didn't like them. He was upset with them.
Yeah, but then to express like you could express. Like let them say their piece. Don't interrupt. Don't say the slights, and then afterwards, just be like, I hear what you guys are saying. I feel like you guys are presenting over here. I feel like you guys are on here trying to do damage control. But I've seen some of your shit. I know what you're about. I know this is not how you usually act. It's usually you're popping off at the mouth, and now you're over here in front of big dick boys. You on your best behavior. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like call them out like that, but don't like. Or I don't like your material, and like you can have a dialogue, but like just those little slice back and forth, like that's rude, man. Like, don't do that. Like you got time. It's a pod. Like you got time. You don't have to rush in and get like nah. Like I know you like part of it's like maybe it's the funny aspect, but I
That
think
wasn't
he was
funny. That was
yeah.
just somebody who was trying to be mean.
Yeah, and I don't like kind of like going back to the whole because we're talking about the passive aggressive. Like that shit's disgusting. I don't like that. It coming from anybody, woman, man, black, white. I don't care what the fuck, child or no. Like that's gross. So I'm not with that. And then Akash had something to say, but I mean, I was just like, like he said what I would have expected somebody in his position to say. Like he's just not exposed. He's already made a determination of like who he wanted to be with, and the type of women he wanted to be with, and it's just he's not like really experiencing the dating world, and I think that's something that they kind of talked about. They're like, oh, you guys are like married or like have been out of the dating game for so long. It's like it's different. But then Andrew like fired back. It's like, no, you guys are just messing with that. Like
Everybody was wrong.
Chicks.
It
Yeah.
was like the worst conversation ever.
Yeah.
One of them.
I liked Andrew's
So bad.
Andrew's input. I like Schultz's
Yeah, but
input.
then Andrew's biased because he's coming at it from a standpoint
From his perspective.
of very early on. He got famous, and then also he's from New York.
Yeah. A lot of people. There's a lot of people there.
Well, no, just New York's vibe.
Yeah.
We were talking about this. Like,
Yeah.
the vibe in New York is just different.
Oh, compared to Miami, you're talking like
No, just the fucking world.
I feel like New York is the world. Like they got everything in there. Like it's like, oh, I want to go to Italy. Let's go to Italy. You want to go to China?
Of how men get pussy in like Montana,
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Idaho,
Yeah.
St. Louis, like to how
yeah.
they get it in New York.
Yeah, I follow. Okay.
It's in the culture to fuck.
Yeah, it's a city. I mean, they have a couple shows. But yeah, I feel you. And like, I mean,
like like Virginia, North Carolina. Like it's not like there isn't hookup cultures, but like
yeah, it's not this.
growing up in like
Yeah.
the suburbs and like
Yeah.
South Carolina.
And I think it's
so like everybody's walking around with all this game and like everyone's dad was just smashing ass left and right.
I think
It's like in New York, it's like, oh yeah, no, like
yeah, because the population factor, like, oh, you will never see this person again, or like versus like
no, it's how to communicate.
Yeah, well, what I imagine, because it's like
I'm talking about the development of people's ability to get women and then read them.
Yeah, but I'm saying like
it's New York fucking city.
Like for example, like you would develop like that in the city because you're exposed to so many people at one time, as opposed to like if you lived in a place where it's like, oh, that family has been there for like X amount of years, and it's just like all right,
Rockville.
Yeah, like oh, I dated that girl down the street there like back in high school. It's like, oh, I wonder what she's up to. Go see it, say hi to her mom. Like, it's a little different than being in the city just because of the pure exposure to people and the nightlife and this and all that. So yeah, I'm with you. So yeah, I could say he's definitely biased, and when it came to that, and they were definitely. I feel like Fresh Fit were definitely biased in their perspective, but I feel like they weren't really talking. I feel like they weren't really talking or expressing themselves.
Well, nobody was correctly.
I feel Andrew was trying to at least, but he was definitely biased. But I felt like he was trying to.
Well, no, he was.
Get it out.
It was just such a terrible.
But it was like it was like pulling out teeth for the most part. You're just like, whew. Yeah, I didn't feel like I was watching Flagrant 2 at that point.
That was a mess. Because Andrew's the type of guy, he has an opinion, and then if you give like a good point on where you're coming from, he then will take a step back and understand like what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So he's willing to have a conversation. I mean, that's.
But if you don't do that, he's just gonna keep knowing what he knows. That's my point.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like remember I told you on the phone about like a lot of their information is more for people who are like not. It's not easy for them to pick up.
Yeah.
So when they do go on dates, like, hey, here's a better way to approach it so that you're not.
Yeah.
Either ruining that, or then like also messing with your own head and all this other bullshit, right? So it's like here are some warning signs. I was talking about that. If they actually explained that method to Schultz, then Andrew would just be like, Oh no, I get that. Like,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, you don't think that? Okay.
Because they have such a strong stance.
Yeah.
Andrew's then gonna dig his heel, or everybody's gonna dig their heels into what they know.
Yeah.
And then you're not having any type of real conversation because then everybody's ignorant.
Damn. So you think if they express themselves, you think Andrew would just be like, oh yeah.
I know. I just listened to Flagrant enough
could-
that he'll say
see that.
something, and then like Akash will be like, oh, but Akash or Mark or whoever will say like, oh, but you have to think about da 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 da, and then he'll be like, oh yeah, like you.
So it's not.
You've watched Flagrant, I think, right? You know what I'm talking about, where like Andrew has this kind of mindset.
I just never noticed
but
that.
And someone will throw in like a quick one line, and he'll be like, "Oh wait, so are you saying if it's like this, then da 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 da?" And they'll be like, "No, I like that. Like that makes sense." Da 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 da.
Okay.
But if you don't do that,
then he's just gonna keep on going through, steamrolling on.
he's gonna keep going. What is coming on in his head?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's like
Which then now nobody's communicating.
Yeah. I get the beginning part of the conversation's all right, like the willingness to accept the pushback and the feedback and to ponder on it, but it's like, add on a little bit.
But this is it. You have they have to break down what they're trying to do, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're just saying women are like this, and this is how you got to be, instead of saying like, well, having
an open conversation about the
Could you break it down a little bit more than just like this binary thing?
Okay. And if Schultz was a different kind of person, you would have been like a little bit more inquisitive and probably try to draw that out of him if he was.
But how can you?
Yeah, I mean, if they're unwilling to do it, I mean, just I guess to ask about it. Why do you think women are?
Yeah,
like
but that's
this?
your mindset.
Yeah.
If it's your mindset, you should be able to break it down and try and convey it to people.
Yeah. Yeah, but I would just be like for Fresh Fit came on like, okay, this is what it is, instead of
But he's reacting.
Yeah. Okay.
They're
so
saying
they're reacting
things.
to what.
They're saying things, and they've put this image about who they are.
Yeah.
So it's not up to another podcast to like try and get the inside on what these guys are really thinking.
No, that's true. But like, if I was sitting down
say
talking
wild
to somebody,
They're like, hey, you want to come on and talk about that?
Yeah.
So now we're debating. So it's actually all on them to be able to break themselves down and then showcase themselves to then let them understand it and then ask questions.
Okay.
Because if they're like, are you saying this? And they're like, yeah, no, this is how it is, bro. Like, you don't get it.
Okay.
And then they're like, okay, like, that's not my experience.
Okay. So you're not.
There's no reason at all why anybody should be like trying to. Let me ask a follow-up question. Like,
I'm trying to be, I'm trying to be nice, but like, so what you're saying is that Fresh and Fit were incapable of communicating thoughts.
Well, it's both. Both were poor communicating.
Okay.
Because one, they're both coming at it from their own mindset. But I'm saying because Fresh and Fit are on their heels trying to defend themselves. It's not.
They weren't willing to. Okay.
It's not up to the people who are like, "Yo, defend yourself."
Okay.
And then if you poorly defend yourself, like.
Yeah, no. But I'm trying to imagine like if I were to like sit in front of them and talking to them, like I'll be like, okay, well, this is what I don't like, or why do you come about it this way?
Yeah, but you don't watch them like that.
That's true. But I guess that's why I would ask those questions. Cause
oh wait, no, you have watched them enough.
I've seen them. I've seen like little clips and stuff like that, and I've seen.
But you've had enough conversations about them.
Yeah.
I'm saying you don't know what. I don't believe. Like I think Schultz and them all.
Oh, not really.
They've seen a couple of highlights and then that's it. Whereas like us.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if they've seen the Abram preach stuff. I don't know if they've seen the Kevin Samuel. Like we've already gotten a whole bunch of stuff from that.
Okay.
From that spectrum on YouTube that we have like a more understanding. So you might ask a question like, "Hey, so are you talking?"
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Schultz and them are just like, wow, these are some wild. These are some wild guys who say some wild shit who have a lot of stuff that goes viral. Hey, you're getting called out for this. Why don't you come on? We want to ask you some questions, and then you also have a platform to defend yourself. Let's make some content. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. The whole thing is on. Like
I see
it was a poor conversation, but it's up to Fresh and Fit to be able to defend themselves accurately, and if they don't,
Yeah.
you can't blame the platform.
Eastside. But
You can't blame the platform for that.
I see what
aspect.
you're
That's
saying.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, so you said that before. Now it's registering a little bit more. So you're just like, oh, okay.
Daddy.
Yeah.
I'm out the final friend on the kitchen table, but I don't believe her.
No,
because
she
he's
does
right.
that. No, she does that. Guys, get ready.
Evil.
You just heard. God damn. But well, yeah. My bad. I have you repeating the same thing over and over again. I'm trying to get into their heads. I'm just like, yeah, like.
I'm saying that you know the content and the overall atmosphere and material that it's coming from, that you would probably ask a more you would ask more invasive questions to try and get to the root of where they're coming from. Whereas what we were watching was, you say this, defend it, and then we're gonna respond to it. So if you want us to understand you more, you have to break that down and let us see the side that you're trying to showcase.
I feel like what just happened is I watched Star Wars Episode 1 and I was like, oh, that's cool, it's a lightsaber. And you were just like, no, it's a terrible movie. And I was like, no, but there was lightsabers. You're like, no, it's a terrible fucking movie. And I'm just like, oh.
It was just a fun conversation.
I hear you. I see it.
Most of the guys didn't like them at all, or what they do.
Yeah.
And then Fresh and Fit didn't want to take responsibility for who they bring on the podcast. They were just blaming their producers, but it's like, bro, like you.
Yeah. Which is another cool thing. I like what Joe did. He was just like, oh, I could do this. It was like, and I'm responsible for bringing on all my guests.
Well, he actually is, but like.
Yeah. They probably have the guy looking for him, but the producer like
it's your fucking show.
Yeah, like the buck stops with you, so take a little.
If all you do is have dumb whores on your show, and you're like, I just don't know what it is, man. It's our producer. It's like, you could say,
yeah.
Hey, can you find non-whores to come on our show?
Yeah, but I think
how about an intelligent woman that can convey herself appropriately?
I don't think they're ready for that conversation. I don't think they're
it's not about being ready. It just doesn't make them enough money.
Oh, interesting.
Come on, bro. Like, you think they have artistic integrity?
No, they don't. That's what part of my issue with them. But like on Roommates, like I saw them talking. They brought on like these two.
But their whole thing is that we have a strong message that we want to send out.
Okay. And I guess Fresh and Fit were just like, oh, we don't want to mimic them, so we'll just do something different.
I think they came first.
Okay.
I think they were before Roommates.
Okay.
Or they came out about the same time.
I just don't. I could watch Roommates. Fresh and Fit is just it's disgusting. I can't.
Because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's never gonna
Power
change.
Rangers. You know, I've seen one episode. It's like, oh, this is how they. Oh, okay. That's the Red Ranger, and okay, here we go. Yeah, man, I'm with it. All right. Well, not talking about critical race theory. Makes me feel a wee bit better.
That's it?
Smidgen.
Well, we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, man. Oof. I don't even want to touch on. Okay. Nope. Not even gonna say it.
Not gonna happen.
Nope. Next episode. All right. Ebony and Ivory out.
Peace.